I'm Marin, and this is Post-its and Pens. Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Marin, and here you will find a little beauty, a little books, and a little teaching content. So if that sounds like something you might enjoy, I would love for you to subscribe and stick around and join me in my little corner of YouTube. Today's video is going to be my February reading recap, so let's go ahead and get into the video. So as I did last month with my recap, I am going to go through kind of a quick rundown of the books from my least favorite to my most favorite in the month. However, this month I did read a nonfiction book, and as a general rule, I don't include nonfiction books in my most favorite books because most of the time I'm giving nonfiction books 5 stars, which is what I did with this one. So I'm going to talk about this one separately. This one was My Sergei, a Love Story by Ekaterina Gordeeva with E.M. Swift. And this was the story of the pairs skating team of Gordeeva and Grinkov. They started skating together when I think Katya was 11, I believe. And they fell in love, they got married, and Sergei very unexpectedly passed away from a massive heart attack at the age of 28, and this book was written after his death. So basically Katya is recounting her childhood, their figure skating career, but also their romance and their love story, and it was pretty heartbreaking. Every time she talked about Sergei, you could just tell how much she loved him, how much she missed him. This book was written in 1996, which was the year after Sergei passed away. But yeah, definitely a tearjerker. So if you're going to read this one, have your tissues handy. I did talk more in depth about this one in a reading vlog, which I will link up in the cards for you in case you'd like to check that out. I really enjoyed this one. Was really glad I gave it a read. And again, 5 stars. Really good. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and run through numbers 1 through 12, starting with 12 and moving up to the top. So the least favorite book of the month for me was a graphic novel. It was called Tiny Dancer, and it was written by Siena, Cherson, Siegel, and Mark Siegel. So this told the true story of Siena's ballet career when she was a teenager, basically. She was very good. She got a chance to go to a very prestigious ballet school, but she did suffer an injury and it kind of derailed her ballet career. So this book basically told the story of that injury and her life afterwards. I gave this one 3 stars. It was fine. The artwork was nice. Nothing to write home about. The book was your very typical coming of age ballet story in my opinion. So I didn't love it. Again, 3 stars, but it was my least favorite book of the month. Coming in at number 11 is Kiki's Delivery Service by Eiko Kadono. I had been curious about this story for a long time because I know that there is a movie based on this and everyone seems to love it. So I was very curious to give this one a read. This one did fit my prompt for middle grade on my Wheel of TBR. Oh, backtrack. My Sergei was my nonfiction pick for my Wheel of TBR. But I think I had maybe too high of expectations for this. Everyone loves the movie so much that I expected the book to be better. It wasn't bad. It was cute. I enjoyed it. It's a coming of age story about Kiki, who is a witch, and when you turn 13 you have to set out and make your own path, basically find a new place to live and that kind of thing. So that's what this story is about. I did like how Kiki used her talent for flying to find her place, but again, I guess I was just expecting a little bit more from this. So it was cute. I gave it 3 stars, but I honestly don't think I will ever reread it. Although I am curious to watch the film now that I have read the book, just to see how they compare. Coming in at number 10 was Being Sloane Jacobs by Lauren Morrill. This is a story about two girls who both have the same name, Sloane Jacobs. One is a hockey player, one is a figure skater, and they meet in, is it Quebec? They meet in Quebec where they decide to change places because they both have some things going on in their lives, some things that they're trying to work through, and they kind of just want to not be themselves at this point. So they trade places, and the hockey player goes to the figure skating camp and the figure skater goes to the hockey camp, and it tells the life of, or it tells what they get up to in those places. Again, this was fine. I gave this one 3 stars. It was enjoyable, although you definitely have to like, you know, suspend your disbelief a little bit because y'all. Also, as someone who is like a very big figure skating fan, the author's figure skating knowledge is pretty poor, so that kind of kept knocking me out of the story a little bit. But all in all, it was fine. It's your typical YA contemporary. I don't think it's anything special. I liked Lauren Morrill's other book, Meant to Be, a lot better, but this one was fine. 3 stars, whatever. Coming in at number 9 was my Nancy Drew book for the month of February, which was the second book, The Hidden Staircase. Speaking of, aren't these covers like the coolest? I bought a whole bunch of them in this new like cover style. They look so pretty on my shelves. But anyway, this is the second book. If you watched last month's recap, you'll know that I read the first book and I was not super impressed. The writing is not very strong. The mystery was kind of lackluster. I felt like this one was a bit better written, and I also liked the mystery of this one a lot better. So this one involves a haunted house. Nancy is trying to figure out what's going on in this haunted house. There is another kind of mystery going on with her father, and I just felt like the mysteries were more engaging and the story itself was a bit more complete and interesting. That being said, it's still not the greatest writing, but this was a fun way to spend like a couple hours or so, an hour and a half. I don't even, maybe just an hour. I flew through it really fast. But yeah, enjoyable. You know, the nostalgia is strong, but it's not the best book in the world, y'all, which is not what you're hoping for, I think, if you're reading Nancy Drew. But I did enjoy this one, and it did come in at number 9. All right, coming in at number 8 is possibly my biggest disappointment for February, and that was Real Easy by Marie Rutkoski. I love Marie Rutkoski's fantasy books, so I read her Winners trilogy. Love. I also read The Midnight Lie by her last year, which I really enjoyed and want to read the sequel to. So I had very high expectations for Real Easy, which is her first adult novel. However, it's slow. It is an extremely slow-moving book. It follows these dancers at a strip club. 2 of them are murdered, and they are trying to figure out who's responsible. This book suffers from kind of a glacial pace, for one, but also far too many points of view. I believe there's like 12 different points of view, like throughout the book, some of which added nothing to the narrative, so really could have just been cut. I did like Georgia. She goes by Gigi. I liked her character a lot. I liked the representation. We have a dancer who is bisexual. We have a dancer who is a lesbian. We have some disability representation from one of the dancers. Lots of different people of color. So I liked all of that. That was all really well done. Also, this is based on the author's own personal experience working in a strip club, so you could definitely tell that it felt very authentic, but I felt like the mystery just was too slow. It just moved too slow. I guess I was not even really surprised when like the murderer is revealed, because when you're thinking about it, that's really the only option there was. But again, I thought this would be a 5-star read. This was on my 22 books to read in 2022 list, and it just didn't live up to the hype for me, y'all. So that was pretty disappointing. All right, coming in at number 7 is What I Thought Was True by Huntley Fitzpatrick. This was another prompt from my Wheel of TBR, and this prompt was just a random like random number generator. So I took all of the books on my to read shelf and I put them in a random number generator, and this is the one that was chosen. This had been on my TBR since 2014, so I was very glad to get that crossed off. I enjoyed this one. I felt like it was a little long. It also uses the trope of keeping information away from the reader that everyone else in the book already knows, which I felt like made the book overly long. It could have really been condensed and a little bit more tight and concise. So I felt like it was a little bit long. The book was like over 400 pages and it took me forever to read it. This is another book that I read in a reading vlog. I'll link it up above. But yeah, I liked this one. I just felt like it could have been better. So in the end, I gave this one 3.5 stars. It was good, but it's not something that I'll ever feel the need to reread. Coming in at number 6 is Heartstopper Volume 4 by Alice Oseman. Now, I gave this one 4 stars. This was a definite upgrade from Volume 3, which I did not love. I still personally think the teachers are like my favorite part of this series. I still feel like it's a bit unrealistic, some of the conversations that Nick and Charlie were having regarding Charlie's eating disorder, his mental health, just did not feel authentic for a teenage boy, but you know, whatever. I understand why this book is being written. These issues need to be brought out to the forefront. People need to see that they are not alone, that there are others who are experiencing what they are experiencing. The representation is amazing. All of that is great. I just don't think these are the best things in sliced bread. They're fine. This one was better than Volume 3, but still not, you know, my favorite book ever. Sorry, y'all. Coming in at number 5 was Persuasion by Jane Austen. Y'all, this one kind of took me by surprise because I am one of those weirdos who doesn't love Pride and Prejudice. Sorry. So I was not really sure what to expect going into this one. I think it helped that I did not know anything about this story. I haven't watched any of the adaptations. I never read like the synopsis, the plot summary, nothing. So it helped to not have any idea what this book was about. I also listened to this one mostly on audio. I really enjoyed that. It kept me invested. I felt like this story was, I guess it just felt real, if you will. The women in this book are extremely catty, y'all. Like, I was cracking up laughing at Anne's sister, Mary, I believe. She is something else. She is something else. And yeah, like I just had to laugh. Anne is like this very even-keeled character. She just kind of goes with the flow. She is like very opinionated, but she keeps most of it to herself. But her sister Mary, wow. Wow. Bless Anne for putting up with her family because her family is a disaster. So I did really, really enjoy this one. This is definitely my favorite Jane Austen that I have read thus far. I read this as part of Emily Fox's Classics read-along. So this was the book for January and February. We will also be reading Sense and Sensibility later in the year. So I will be curious to compare the two because I don't know anything about that one either. But yeah, this one was a winner. And I'm happy to have found a Jane Austen that I did enjoy. I gave this one 4 stars. Okay, now we're into the top 4, and I'm gonna just say straight up, all 4 of these books received 5 stars for me. I loved all of them, so it was kind of difficult to like rate them. So I went on like their emotional impact to me. So the ones that had the biggest emotional impact are higher in the list, and the ones that had less of an emotional impact are below, but they're all 5 stars. They're all great books. I highly recommend all of them. So I'm not going to say that with each one. But number 4 is The Magnolia Palace by Fiona Davis. This was my book of the month pick for January, if you can see right there. So I was really pleased that I went ahead and picked this one out. This is a historical mystery book. It follows 2 dual timelines, one of which takes place in 1919, which is post-Spanish flu outbreak. Yeah, timely, right? And then the second is set in 1966. So you are flipping between the two. The Timeline in 1919 was personally my favorite. It follows Lillian, who used to be an artist's muse. She would pose for sculptors and things like that, and her likeness is like all over New York City because she posed for all of these really well-known statues, fountains, things like that. Well, her mother passes away from the Spanish flu and she finds herself kind of out of work, and she accidentally becomes the personal secretary to Helen Frick. And the Frick family lives in this very ritzy house full of crazy expensive artwork. And that is your first timeline, kind of Lillian's like life as Helen's personal secretary and kind of the things that happen. The second timeline follows a girl, Veronica. She is British. She is a model, and she is brought to New York to do a photo shoot at the Frick mansion, which has now become like an art museum, basically, that people can come in and tour. So there is a mystery involving the Magnolia diamond and kind of some things that went down when Lillian was living in the house. So the whole book is like flipping back and forth between these two points of view, and Veronica is basically trying to solve the mystery of this missing diamond. But I really enjoyed this one. I did listen to it on audio. Highly recommend that. Really enjoyed the audio version of this. I just thought this was an extremely well-crafted book. Historical, but not slow, but I'm a fan of historical fiction, so I should probably throw that out there. But yeah, I really loved this one, and I'm so glad it was my book of the month pick for January. Okay, coming in at number 3 is Everything Leads to You by Nina LaCour. This was my buzzword pick for February. The challenge was like different pronouns in the title, so you would be that pronoun. This had been on my TBR again since 2014. It's also part of the same vlog where I read What I Thought Was True, which I've already linked above. I have had this on my shelf and just never read it. It just sat there and sat there and sat there. It came in an Owl Crate box way back when Owl Crate was first getting started. And I don't know why it took me so long, because I loved everything about this one. This follows a girl, Emmy, I believe. I might be blanking on her name, but I'm pretty sure it's Emmy. She wants to be like a set designer for movies and things like that. So she is an intern at a company helping out with this. And she kind of becomes engrossed in this mystery when her and her best friend go to an estate sale and find a note hidden in a record that is referring to this Hollywood star's daughter, who like he was trying to like reconcile with, if you will. So the girls kind of take it upon themselves to begin to kind of solve this mystery. And while they are doing this, they meet Ava. And Emmy and Ava have this thing going. So it is sapphic. Shout out to that. And I really loved the way that like the film industry was like interspersed throughout the book. I just really love this book. It made me cry a couple of times. I could not recommend this one highly enough, and I wish I hadn't waited so long to read it, but at least now I know what all the hype was about when it was released, because it's definitely a good one. Coming in at number 2 is another book that I read during my figure skating related vlog, which I've already linked above, and that is From Lukov with Love by Mariana Zapata. This is a romance book about a figure skater named Jasmine. Jasmine is kind of down on her luck a little bit. She's a pair skater without a partner, and suddenly this very famous, very talented figure skater, Ivan Lukov, kind of approaches her and asks her to be his new pairs partner, but they don't get along. They're like always butting heads. They like snip at each other all the time whenever they do talk. So it's love, you know, it's a hate to friends to lovers romance. Slow burn. The figure skating was fantastic. Jasmine has some ongoing issues that she's dealing with, some of which like made me cry a little bit. I loved this book, and I definitely want to read more from Mariana Zapata, but this one was like perfection, y'all. I'm glad it's the one that I chose to read from her first, because It was delightful. And coming in at number 1, my top book of February is Razorblade Tears by S.A. Cosby. This was the pick for the Literally Dead book club for February. Obviously, this one's been getting a lot of buzz. It was on a lot of people's like favorites of 2021 list. I think it was like the Goodreads choice. Was it the winner for the mystery thriller category? I don't know, but it was nominated at the very least. This book, y'all, wow. This book follows 2 fathers, Ike and Buddy Lee. Their sons were together and they were murdered. Neither Ike or Buddy Lee could ever really accept their son's sexuality, so there is a lot of guilt on their part because they were not there for their sons when their sons were alive, and they kind of take it upon themselves to begin to try to scope out and figure out who killed their sons. So there's like some coming to terms with how shitty of a father they both were. They are like well aware of how terrible they were. There's a lot of like introspection between both of the fathers. You get like dual point of view, so you'll get some chapters from Ike's point of view, some from Buddy Lee's, and it's interesting. There's just a lot going on in this book. So you have Ike, who is a black man. Buddy Lee is a white man. Ike is like middle class. Buddy Lee is very poor, like lives in a trailer, doesn't have a job. His family kind of has always been like on that lower income level. There is like some crime in both families because both Ike and Buddy Lee are former convicts in prison, different prisons, but in prison. Ike was like a member of a gang. Buddy Lee was like a drug runner. And so you have that going on. So both of them decide to team up to try to solve their son's murders. And this book is absolutely brutal. It's brutal. The author pulls no punches. However, the audio, wow, the audio of this book is absolutely amazing. The narrator was fantastic. I think he's part of why I really loved the book as much as I did, because the narration was just amazing. And as the 2 guys, the 2 fathers are working together, you can really they really start coming to terms with who their sons were, how much they let their sons down. And yeah, it was super emotional. The ending like broke my heart a little bit, but I loved this book. Now, I've heard some people say that it's slow. I didn't think it was slow, but again, the audio was probably really helping. I loved this book. Like, hands down the best book that I read last month, and I definitely want to read more from S.A. Cosby because Razorblade Tears was fantastic. So that's it. That is the rundown. I know that wasn't very fast. I'm at like 24 minutes. Sorry, y'all. But I wanted to quickly recap. So in February, I did read 13 books, which was more than I read in January. I'm hoping that I don't hit that for March because that felt like a lot. Felt like a lot of books. And of those 13 books, they came to 4,084 pages, which was also more than January. So yeah, all in all, a very good reading month. I did have, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stars. So I can't complain too much about that. Yeah, what more can I say? That is what I read. That's my recap. Sorry, y'all. I'm a little kind of all over the place. Anyway, if you enjoyed this, please leave me a thumbs up. Consider subscribing to see more from me, and I will see you in my next video. Bye, everyone.